Hi, welcome to this week 3, day 1 preview for the NA LCS. So, some changes coming from the first 2 weeks. We're moving into patch 8.2. So, looking into meta changes, Quad Relic Shield bot lane should be gone from the game. So, with that, I expect some champs like Kog'Maw maybe to go down a bit in priority. Quickly, though, Unsealed Spellbook is still in the game, so mid lane's going to be super stagnant still. Top lane, again, not a lot has changed except for the support itemization with the Sightstone coming at 500 gold, not having to be built by itself anymore. So I expect some of the picks to change, but a lot of the consistent play to remain the same. And unfortunately, some of the longer drawn out games as well. Bot lane might be a little more interesting though, so that could give way to some teams to push leads. But that's Meta 8.2. We're talking about week 3 here. Looking at the teams facing up, we got some really interesting matchups coming in. A lot of what some people would expect to be some close games, and there have been a lot of unexpected results from the first 2 weeks. And week 3 is when you really start to expect teams to show how they're going to perform for the rest of the season. They've had, 21 days plus all the work they did before the season started of scrims and playing together. So you're expecting teams to kind of separate themselves from the rest of the pack, on the top and bottom of the leagues. Speaking of unexpected storylines, Counterlogic Gaming and Echo Fox off to opposite starts. Echo Fox are the only 4-0 team, and Counterlogic Gaming have floundered in the first 2 weeks. So let's break this down really quickly. Top lane, who he's been an absolute beast. Darshan hasn't played bad, but it's been hard to accelerate yourself. In the one game where he was playing Vlad into GP, I think it was, he got a huge lead, but wasn't really able to capitalize on it and really push his advantage after GP was just able to get his levels and enough items to just sit on a tower and farm with barrels. So because of this, if Huni gets the counter pick, it doesn't tell you which side, which is unfortunate on this. But if Huni gets counter pick, it could be very deadly for Darshan. So almost expect him to be on a tank or a super safe pick like maybe Nair. In the jungle, Reignover Dardoch. So Reignover's shown signs of brilliance in the early game, but has also had some really questionable decisions in the mid game that have really cost CLG. Dardoch hasn't shown that at all on champs, especially like Zach. He's just been lights out this year, able to snowball his leads in his strong laners. So I think if Reignover can't fix those mid-game mistakes, whether they be communication-based or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time where he shouldn't be, then Dardoch should just squish him in the jungle, especially if Dardoch can get a pick that accelerates him and Reignover is stuck on a tank. So, for example, if Dardoch's on Kha'Zix and Reignover's on Sejuani or Zac, it could be a huge issue because Dardoch will be able to get that lead in the early game and start to push it. Mid lane, who he's been fine, continuing maybe not to the same form he was showing at the end of summer last year when he was the best player on the team, but has not had anything that's made me say he's performing or he's underperforming. So because of that, I just expect mid lane to remain as it has been with the 4 power picks of Azir, Ryze, Mel's, and the Zoe ban. Week 3 might be the first time we start seeing Zoe make her way through pick ban, but I don't expect teams to let her go for long. She's just too high variance, hard to play around, a little bit of a troublemaker all across the lanes with her super long range slow and one shot potential. So I expect mid lane to just trade farm for the most part. Don't give Phoenix his ear, please, if I'm a CLG fan. Now let's look at the bot lane. So coming into this season, I had Echo Fox's bot lane actually ranked pretty low. I know Altic and Adrian have history together. They've been familiar with each other, been in the league for a long time. Stix A and Bio were pretty hyped coming in, but weren't able to necessarily show that they were deserving of that hype in the first 2 weeks. Stix A in particular had some issues. I even made a video about that. You can check it out in my last one. So I'm really looking at these two guys to step up this week. They kind of have to. If you start losing to Altec and Adrian, I would put Altec and Adrian as a good litmus test or a good bench warmer or benchmark test for other bot lanes. So the best bot lanes, like Doublelift and Ale, I would expect to just beat Altec and Adrian straight out. Middling tier bot lanes, I expect to go even, and then the worst bot lanes or teams that haven't found their cohesion, I would expect to lose to these two. So I think this is a great benchmark for week 3 for CLG to come in and find out where their bot lane is. So again, Huni can't have counter pick. If he does, he's going to just win lane straight out. Dardock, again, it's going to be based on the picks and map play, but I think he's shown a lot more than Rainover has so far. Huni and Phoenix, it's mid lane, or Huhi, sorry, and Phoenix. It's going to be really hard for the casters, Huni and Huhi. But I expect them to just split farm, be okay, and then this is going to be the biggest amount of variance, and the jungler effect can have a huge impact on it, along with top lane, of course. If Huni can get rolling, I expect them to just roll over Counterlogic Gaming, but if Counterlogic Gaming can weather the storm and kind of shore up those mistakes they were showing earlier on, I think they can push Echo Fox into the late game and give them a stronger showing than they have in the first 2 weeks, and test Echo Fox's late game decision making, like other teams maybe haven't been able to the same extent. Okay, Cloud9 Optic. Going in, Cloud9 is definitely the favorite here. Licorice has been crazy impressive as a rookie coming in. Last week he played against, I think it was Huni and Someday, back-to-back days, and looked fine on both. So that's a really great sign if you're a CLG fan that Licorice has passed the hardest test he's going to face in the first half of the spring split. Sven and Acadian, two explosive junglers. I've been impressed with Acadian so far. He's played well. As same with Sven though. So this is going to be again more focused on the picks in particular, what kind of champion they're put on, whether it be an early game like Evelyn or Kha'Zix, or it has to be a Zac or Sejuani. So how they have to work around that with the team is kind of more team focused, I would say, than them in particular. So I don't think they're gonna lose their team in the game, basically. But they can both get early leads for them, for sure. Jensen PoE, again, mid lane is so hard right now with the meta and the shape that it's in with Unsealed Spellbook and just those 3 kings of the mid lane. You're not really seeing a lot of you're not really seeing a lot of 1v1s or huge CS leads. Power of Evil has been the one to bring out things like Orianna and Syndra, though, so that could give Jensen a different look, but it's Jensen. He's going to be as consistent as he's always been and perform as strongly in and out of lane as he is. So, while PoE might show him a Syndra to try and give him more lane pressure, I think Jensen will be very fine to weather the storm. Jensen even picked a Zillion against a Malzahar, so he's got some tricks up his sleeve as well. So I look for that to be maybe an interesting pick, but ultimately trade farm. This is another bottom lane matchup that I think is going to be a great indicator. Sneaky Smoothie are another one of those lanes, kind of like Altec Adrian, except I would put Sneaky Smoothie definitely above those Altec Adrian bot lane, in the sense that in the same type of way of a benchmarking test. So great lanes will split even or maybe slightly beat Sneaky Smoothie in lane. Uh, Middling bottom lanes will be a little bit behind, and then bad teams or bad bottom lanes will get beaten straight up 2v2 by Sneaky Smoothie. So this is going to be really interesting to see where Arrow and Elimination specifically slot in. It'll be a good indicator, as Arrow's been good so far, great in the mid to late game fights when he's able to get protection from players like Zig and Acadian and Lemonation even, who's shown champions he hasn't been super locked into the Relic Shield meta with playing things like Morgana, which is refreshing, and I think 8.2 gives him a more opportunity to bring out like a Spell Thief's user and try and bully a lane. But ultimately, I got to give this one to Cloud9. So that's Echo Fox, Cloud9 for my picks. Echo Fox have just looked too strong this year, and I think they have winning matchups across lanes, if I didn't already say that. Clutch and 100 Thieves. Okay, this is the first time these guys are going to face, and is a really, really interesting matchup for me, because going into the split, I had these two teams placed 5th and 6th, fighting for the last two playoff spots. Um, and I think they match up pretty well against each other in the sense that it's one kind of explosive side versus one team of a lot of veterans, and I think I have 100 Thieves with a lot more late game insurance in that experience and shot calling from powerful voices on their team. Clutch Gaming though still have that core Envy synergy, and Febvin has looked like an absolute beast so far in the mid lane when he's been in this mid lane that is so hard to shine in right now. My only question mark would be Solo someday. I think someday if he gets a counter pick, can work some damage onto Solo. He can maybe get some Meteos pressure. Meteos is going to pick something like a Zac or Sejuani. Have a little trouble in the early game. He has been exposed in the early game, like the CLG game. Rain overpicked Rengar and invaded him like 2 or 3 times on his red buff side. So I hope Clutch look to do the same thing with Lyra. Get Lyra started on a champion that he can accelerate the game with and build a lead for their team. I think Clutch need to get an early game lead and then play through strong players like Febvin to kind of push that lead. Solo can't get crushed in lane. Hopefully he's on something safe. Hopefully he's on something that allows him to be self-sufficient. Or Lyra puts focus into him so they can get a lead onto someday and keep him down. Cody's on Aframu versus Apollo Hakuho. These are another two great bot lanes. I've said that about every game, but the league right now has a lot of really good bottom lanes, and these types of games are going to help us see where these bottom lanes actually shake out. We're getting a lot of good benchmark tests and with the meta shifting away from the quad relic shield where you could just keep sustaining each other, it was really hard to get the sustained damage onto the other AD carry and try and like push them out of lane and make them misfarm. In 8.2, we have no more relic shield AD carries, hopefully, and the ability to pick champions that aren't Tarek, Braum, and Tom Kench. So you might have a little more freedom to pick something like Karma, a Janna, a Morgana counter pick, and look to push a lead, look to bully out a lane. In the game, though, I have to give this one to 100 Thieves just because in the stalled out late game, I trust them to play better than Clutch Gaming will, who are still coming together around these two solo laners who are new to the team. 100 Thieves have had really late games where they've kind of stalled out the game when they had a lead, but working together is going to come with more time. Meteos and Afro have had that synergy from the start, jungle support, and I look to them to keep it going. Snowball someday or Ryu. Again, though, snowballing against Febvin has proven to be pretty hard so far this season, as he has played very well. So I think without any laners going extremely explosive, or the jungle matchup getting swung one way or the other, I expect 100 Thieves to win this game. FlyQuest Liquid. Liquid. Next. No, quickly go through it. Impact Flame, two great top laners. Counter pick is important, but not as big of a deal as I think both laners know how to play a losing matchup and perform. Keen is still slotted in for FlyQuest mid. I don't know if or when they're going to work on Fly or if he's going to remain the sub. He was originally supposed to be the starter for this team, but he had visa issues, I believe, and I don't know if they're resolved or not. So because of that, FlyQuest have been playing with a quote unquote sub and have performed very well with it. I guess overperformed in a lot of people's ideas coming into the season. However, they have a really, really hard matchup coming into this week 3, day 1. Team Liquid have been potent, very strong, as expected. Doublelift, Ole should just beat Wild Turtle Stunt in the 2v2. Pobelter Keen. Pobelter on Malice is 100% win rate, so if we pick him that champion, I don't expect it to change. He can play Rise, he can play Azir. I expect him to just play as he's played. Keen has shown great moments, though, as a sub, and that's really commendable. Coming in where you're supposed to be underfly and having to play week 1, day 1, and then all the games after, he's played very well. Onda Smithy. Onda's looked like he's preferred to stay safer on the tankier picks like Jarvan and Sedge, but Xmithy is, I believe, to be a smarter jungler, more experienced, better composure, able to handle adversity very well. So even if FlyQuest do get an early game lead through maybe top or mid Onda snowballing, and they could even go bot with Onda, even if FlyQuest do get that early lead, I expect Team Liquid's experience, same with 100 Thieves, their experience, the jungle support synergy to kind of show through in their ability to recoup any loss or snowball the lead, which is why I got to give it to Team Liquid in this game. And finally, TSM Golden Guardians. So Golden Guardians is probably the only team who has performed almost exactly as expected coming into the season. Their game against CLG was one they should have won, and one that and was a game that many other teams would have quickly and easily snowballed. However, they made a few questionable decisions, filtered into a few team fights they shouldn't have, and ultimately threw a lead, gave up Baron, and lost the game. All is not lost for Golden Guardians. I think they can make plays against teams that might be stronger individually than they are, but I don't think it's going to happen in this game, as the discrepancy is just too large from the lanes. I expect TSM to come out of laning phase with the lead across the board, and then snowball that lead to a clean victory. I expect Hanser to beat Lorlo, Bjerg to beat High in CS, and Sven and Mithy should crush Deathly Matt. If Sven and Mithy don't, and there's no jungle influence, or not a significant amount, I think that would start raising questions about Sven and Mithy, who have gotten ganked, admittedly, but haven't performed to the degree that a lot of people expected them to come in. But that's very, it can be very understandable without knowing anything about the team dynamic, as they're coming in from the East, from Europe, coming over to North America and having to adapt to everything in North America, from the play style, the solo queue, the team environment, the relatively young jungler around them. It's not easy, but these two are veteran players, and I expect them by week 3 to have sorted out a lot of the problems that they had before in terms of mid game communication and going in on plays that maybe the whole team isn't on board with. So I'm looking to TSM to kind of be a new type of TSM into week 3. This record is not totally indicative of how they've been playing. It hasn't been the level that we expect from TSM, but maybe hasn't been deserving of a 1-3 record. Okay, so because TSM are going to come out of the laning phase with leads across the board, they're just going to take Baron. and hopefully snowball out a clean game. Anything less than that, I don't think that would be where TSM would like to be. Okay, so I've done a lot of praising TSM and a bit of bashing on Golden Guardians. Let's talk about how they can win the game, and let's talk about where they can get the advantages they need. So, Hanser Lorlo, I think at best you can split farm even. Same with Highbjerg. It's going to really be on contracts this game. I think they have to pick a champion that allows contracts to have some early influence onto the lanes, and early influence onto Mike Young even, to force him into positions where contracts either knows where he is and is able to track him for the rest of his lanes, or is just getting out onto the map and ganking for his laners. So that's a lot of responsibility onto contracts, who has come into this new team environment, is surrounded by younger or other players who haven't necessarily enjoyed the same type of success he had on C9 recently, with Lorlo and Matt leaving Team Liquid, and High kind of existing in the mid lane on teams that haven't been star studded, and this Golden Guardians roster is no different. They have to work together much better than other teams do, I feel like, just to get the same type of lead or push the same type of advantage that another team would be able to, as their laners haven't been as strong as others. That doesn't mean they can't win. It doesn't mean that advantages can't be gained. I just think it requires a lot of hard work on these players, and they're all very young, all very capable. High being the oldest, but we're kind of looking at the future of the roster here. High is trying to mold these players into a unit that's going to work together for the next, you know. I think this roster just needs a lot more time. They have a good coach in Loco Doco. They have a bright young talent with some established consistency in players like High, Matt, and Lorlo, but they have to work to keep facilitating that growth and work to keep developing each other. Up against it really tough, though, against TSM this week, who are definitely looking to revert the criticisms that have come their way from the first 2 weeks. So, week 3, quickly going through day 1. Echo Fox over CLG, and then I'll quickly explain why. So, Dardock's been better than Rainover. I'm very scared of Huni, sorry. Oh my goodness. Huni versus Darshan, especially if there's a counter pick here. Who he isn't facilitated through the mid lane meta enough to kind of push an Azir out of lane or push a Ryze out of lane. You solo kill him, for example. Get the 20 CS lead, get a 30 CS lead, keep him down and out of a game. But Stixxay, Biofrost, I'll take Adrian. I think this would be the perfect setup for Counterlogic Gaming's bot lane to silence some of the criticism they've gotten. Mostly justified, honestly. Stixxay's performance hasn't been where we all know it can be from his past seasons. So again, this is going to be a really big matchup for them, and I hope that they are able to perform as they want to. So Echo Fox over CLG, Cloud9 over Optic. I don't think Acadian is going to be able to just snowball the game enough for Optic, whether it be through PoE or Zig against player like Licorice. And that's pretty scary to say, as Licorice is so young into the LCS coming up from Academy. He's shown to be very scary already. Yeah, bot lane again, another interesting bot lane matchup. Without Quad Relic Shield 2, this is going to be the first week where we can start to really discern which bot lanes are showing that they understand each other in terms of playing together in synergy. And I expect Sneaky Smoothie to continue their great play. Clutch 100 Thieves. This is probably apart from what Canologic Gaming Echo Fox could be, Clutch and 100 Thieves would be my game of the day. Just where I had these teams so tightly contested going into the season, and they've both shown flashes of brilliance, but also an inability to cleanly snowball unless CLG's inting into Febvin. So get Meteos, something he loves, get him a Zac, get him a Sej, get him through a Lyra intense early game, and then 100 Thieves should be able to close out. As long as Febvin doesn't just go off again. FlyQuest Team Liquid, you got to give Team Liquid here. They've just shown that they're a team to be feared, as many people expected going into the season. And TSM Golden Guardians, this is where TSM starts to show that they deserved to be a top 2 projected team. And they have to do it against Golden Guardians. If they lose to Golden Guardians, I can't imagine the backlash the community is about to give them. Okay, so that's it for day 1, week 3 of the NA LCS. Thanks for watching.